Alright Whiz Kids, this is a tutorial on installing the Magic Mapping Parchment on your own computer. So for all three of you following along with my Wizardry series who would like to use the Magic Mapping Parchment while you play Wizardry, this is the video you want to watch. There are about 4 steps you need to follow, which will be explained in this video, in order to get the Magic Mapping Parchment up and running on your own computer. The first step is to install Java, or more specifically, a development kit for Java. So if you're a developer yourself, or you already use Java to write code, you probably can skip this step. The second step is going to be getting my code and the files that it needs off of my Dropbox account. There are about 10 of those files. Some of them are optional image files that I think make the Magic Mapping Parchment look better. The third step is going to be getting jar files or Java archive or library files, which my code needs to run from various websites. There's about 3 or 4 of those we need to get in this video. And finally, we need to set some environment variables if you're a Windows user. Now, word to the wise here, this tutorial will be on my computer, which runs Windows 7 Ultimate. So if you have a different operating system or a different version of Windows, you'll have to extrapolate the instructions here for your own system. Don't panic too greatly if you can't read or follow along with the links I use. They'll all be listed in the video description below, so you can copy and paste them when you go through this process yourself. Alright, let's get started. Alright, so we want to go ahead here and paste the Oracle site URL into your browser and visit the Oracle Java download site. And once you get there, you want to click on the Java download icon, and that will take you to a list of files for various operating systems and machines. Now again, I'm a Windows 7 Ultimate user, so I'm going to click on this file here. Don't forget to accept the license agreement. And you want to download that somewhere on your computer where you will find it quickly enough. I always put things on my desktop if I'm going to install them and then delete them, so maybe that's a good spot for you too. Okay, you want to give it a second or a minute or two to download. Okay, great. Once you have the file, what you want to do is go ahead and double click on it. You can use Windows Explorer to find it if you want to, whatever is most comfortable for you. Now, I cannot double click on this file right now because I'm actually running Java to capture this video that you're watching. So if I double click on this file, it's going to remove the necessary binaries that my program's using to do a video capture, and the video capture will stop. But once you double click on it, it's pretty self-explanatory. Eventually you'll see a window which will allow you to make a choice where you want to install Java. If you're running Windows, let it be the default Java directory that the window offers you. Don't try to change it, otherwise you may find the rest of this tutorial difficult to follow. And then finally what you will see is that it has installed successfully, so you can go ahead and delete the install file. Now, in your directory structure on your Windows machine, you should see something like this. In your C drive, under Program Files, you should see a Java directory, and you should see a JDK version directory. Now, if you're installing this 2 years after I made this video, the version may be different, but it will probably look something like that no matter what. Okay, great. So now you've got Java installed. So now what you want to do is you want to go grab my Java code from my Dropbox account. So go ahead and click that, copy and paste that URL into your browser. You don't need a Dropbox account to download this, thankfully. In the upper right, you will see that download button or icon. Go ahead and click on that and choose Direct Download. Now, you may or may not be able to right-click on it and save it somewhere you'd prefer to save it on your computer. If that doesn't work for you, just click the Direct Download button, left-click it, and it should go into your Downloads directory if you're using Windows 7. Okay, now you want to get the mapdata.txt file. That's basically a faux database for the Magic Mapping Parchment. So go ahead and cut and paste, copy and paste that URL into your browser. Click on download and the mapdata.txt file will download. Alright, now there are a number of image files which again are optional. You can download those if you want, or you can skip them if you're too impatient. I recommend that you get them because again I think it makes the Magic Mapping Parchment look prettier, but it's up to you. The Magic Mapping Parchment will still run without these files. Alright, so go ahead and make a choice there and either get them or do not. Okay, great. Once you've gotten all those files, what you want to do is move them into the bin directory of your Java Development Kit directory tree. So I put mine into my download directory. So what I'm going to do here now is move them all into the bin directory. Okay, very good. Now we can get our jar files from a couple different sites here. First one is going to be GitHub, and we want to get what is called a JNativeHook.jar file. Now some of these jar files come in zip files. What you want to do to open a zip file is have some kind of utility that opens a zip file like WinRAR. Go ahead and copy and paste that URL into your browser and visit the GitHub site for JNativeHook. Okay, now I've been using an older version of JNativeHook for the Magic Mapping Parchment, and that's going to be version 1.20 RC4. So go ahead and download that one. Again, I put it on my desktop, but if you prefer a different directory, just don't lose it somewhere on your computer. Okay, great. Now let's get the Zuggle jar from the Zuggle site. And I hope I'm pronouncing that right. All right, that's the jar we want. We want the Zuggler 5.4 jar file. So go ahead and download that one. And again, if you're doing this a year from now, 2 years from now, these versions may have changed. So keep that in mind. You may have to download a different version. All right, great. Let's go to the SLF4J site. And we'll download that zip file. Right-click on it, click Save As, and put it somewhere where you're going to find it on your computer. Some of these files are a little large. You may have to give them a minute or two to download. Okay, that should give us all the jar and zip files we need. Now we need to open up the zip files and get at the actual jars. And again, you need a utility to open zip files. So go ahead and maybe download WinRAR. That's what I use. It's pretty common, pretty popular, and pretty stable. So once you have the zip files and you have a utility to open them, go ahead and double click on those zip files and search for the actual jar files that we need. For JNativeHook, that's going to be in the jar directory, and there it is. We need that JNativeHook.jar file. And do the same thing for the SLF4J zip file. Now we need 2 jar files from this zip file. The first jar file is going to be the APR jar file. So go ahead and transfer that onto your hard drive. And we need the simple jar file as well. Okay, great. Now you may want to clean up the zip files, get rid of them because you don't need them anymore. And you may want to clean up some other files that you don't need as well. Okay, great. Now we're going to move these jar files, these 4 jar files, into the lib or library directory of our JDK directory tree. So go ahead and highlight those and move them over. Now I've already installed these in order to run the capture utility for this video, for this tutorial. So I don't want to overwrite them. You won't see this window most likely if you've never installed these in your live directory before. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete them. You don't want to delete them. Like I said, you want to move them into your live directory. Okay, great. Now it's time to create the environment variables that are needed to run the Magic Mapping Parchment. So what you want to do is open up Control Panel and click on System. And click on Advanced System Settings. Now this may not be the way you get to this window on your system. Somehow or another you want to get to System Properties and click on the Advanced tab. Now as you can see, I already have these environment variables instantiated on my computer, but this is how you go about it if you don't have them. You want to click on New and copy the name of the variable into the window. And also copy these values. Now I remind you that if you're doing this a year or 2 from now, the JDK version that you have may require you to change the variable value to match the directory tree that you have on your computer. As of the making of this video, JDK 1.8.073 is the latest and greatest JDK version. But again, sometime from now it won't be, and it'll be a different version that you need to input in this variable value. So I'm not actually going to create these variables, so I'm clicking Cancel. You want to click OK as opposed to Cancel. So now you want to create your ClassPath environment variable, and you're going to put all 4 of these lines in the value field. Now they're all separated by a semicolon. You don't need to put any spaces in. You don't need to hit return. Just cram them all together, one after the other, inside the variable value field. Once again, keeping in mind that depending upon when you go through this process, the versions may have changed on these jars, so the path to the actual jar, and the name of the jar may be different for you. Now I put my bin directory in as well. You may or may not need to do that. It's a good practice to do that. Okay, so I'm clicking cancel. You would click OK. Okay, great. Close out of your control panel window. Okay, great. Now, if all of that went smoothly, it's time to compile my Java code. So go ahead and bring up a command prompt. Click on Run as Administrator. That way, any kooky Windows file permissions issues are overridden. And so now you can take advantage of one of the environment variables that you made in the previous step. So type in cd java home surrounded by %signs. And there you go, you'll get to your JDK directory. And you're going to run this command here. Now, hopefully you won't get any errors. You shouldn't get any errors if I'm any kind of coder. And my instructions so far have been correct. Okay, there you go. Great. So you should see something like that outputted onto the command prompt window. And now, if you look in your JDK binary directory, you will see the class files that were produced by that compilation. Those are the binaries of the Magic Mapping Parchment. They're actually what run on your computer. So now we've got 3 more commands here to bring up the Magic Mapping Parchment. The first one is just Java WizMap. Now that will bring up the Magic Mapping Parchment with no video capture functionality. So that's if you just want to play Wizardry and not capture your videos. The next one is Java WizMap with a parameter, the first parameter being vid. Now that tells the Magic Mapping Parchment that you want to capture video, and it will capture it in a default time-stamped directory on your C hard drive. Now the next one, you can give it 2 parameters, vid plus your preferred directory. And rather than that timestamp directory, it'll put it in the directory you specify. So let's go ahead and bring it up without any video capture and see how it looks. Okay, great, there it is. Now, you can move this window if you're not capturing video. However, if you are capturing video, don't move it, because you'll get nonsense in the video capture. It needs to be right where it is when it comes up. And you can see some of the output from JNativeHook. It's kind of got diarrhea of the mouth. There may be a way to shut all that output off, but all right, so you can now click on M to enter the maze in the Magic Mapping Parchment, click on L to leave camp, and then use the arrow keys to move around inside the first level of the maze. Very exciting. All right, and to close the window, you close it like you do any other window. You just go up to the X there in the upper right, and the Magic Mapping Parchment goes away. All right, so let's try the first video capture command, Java WizMap vid, and see what that gets us. Copy and paste that into your command prompt window. And the Magic Mapping Parchment will come up again, so go ahead and click on M to enter the maze. Leave camp. Do not take the stairs back up. And go ahead and move around inside the first level of the Proving Grounds. Now this is cheating a little bit because you're exploring the first level of the maze without actually playing Wizardry. Alright, and close the window. And you will see some output here. Now this is the command prompt telling you that it's creating your video, your captured video. As you can see, it's encoding frames and letting you know the progress, so go ahead and let that run its course. Okay, great, and once that's done, you can check for the time-stamped default directory and go ahead and click on that, and you can see that you have a video file plus a bunch of image files. Now it used the image files to create that video file, and yes, that is a Flash video file. So if you have a Flash player, you can go ahead and play that file. Now, Realtime has trouble for some reason with the captured video from the Magic Mapping Parchment. However, if it's a decent video editor like Blender and you want to upload your playthroughs, Blender will have no problem with that file. So what you want to do is set Blender up to drag the video file onto the timeline. I like to see the frame numbers myself in Blender. So go ahead and drag that into Blender. And now you're ready to play around with your captured video. Go ahead and click on play. And you can see that it plays all right in Blender. And there's the arrow indicating the party moving throughout the maze. Now you may have to, in Blender, adjust the aspect ratio of the video capture file, but if you're good in video editing, that shouldn't be a problem. Alright, so let's go ahead and try the other command where you indicate your preferred directory for the video capture files to go into. Go ahead and copy and paste that into your command prompt window. And the Magic Mapping Parchment will come up once again. Go ahead and press M to enter the maze. Leave camp. Do not take the stairs back up. And wander around the maze a little more. Now, just to let you know, JNativeHook is what allows you to not have this window highlighted, but still have your party move around inside the WizMap window while you have the Wizardry window highlighted. And there again, we see the output of the video being encoded. So go ahead and let that run its course. Okay, great. Now if you go to Windows Explorer, you should see the directory, your preferred directory, and you'll see the video files once again. And you can go ahead and put that in your video editor and play around with it. Okay, so I happen to use my computer on a screen resolution setting that is too small to allow both the Magic Mapping Parchment and the Wizardry window to come up without overlap. You want to avoid overlap so your video capture utility doesn't get nonsense. So what I do whenever I want to play Wizardry and capture video is I reset the screen resolution to something larger that allows both windows to be up without any overlap. Keep in mind you may have to do the same. Okay, great. Once you have Java installed, you have all of my files downloaded, and you've compiled my code after setting environment variables on your system, you can go ahead and bring up Wizardry and the Magic Mapping Parchment in conjunction. Now, also in the video description below, I will include links to install Wizardry. All of those links have been in all of my Wizardry videos, so I won't get into how to install Wizardry in this tutorial. This is just about the Magic Mapping Parchment, and it assumes you already have Wizardry installed. So great, let's go ahead and bring them both up. First, bring up the Wizardry window, and you can move that around and make sure it's out of the way of where the Magic Mapping Parchment's going to come up, and put it in a comfortable spot for you. And then you can bring up the Magic Mapping Parchment. Okay, great. Now, as you can see, if you highlight the Wizardry window, whatever input you put into the Wizardry window will be recognized by the Magic Mapping Parchment. So you can get into the maze after you get your party together. So go ahead into Gilgamesh's, get your party together, and then enter the maze. And then you can move around, and you can see that whatever you do in the Wizardry window is going to happen as well in the Magic Mapping Parchment window. Now, if you get out of sync, which will happen because the Magic Mapping Parchment window is in perfect integration with the Wizardry window, if you get out of sync, there are several ways to get back into sync. You can back yourself into a corner with the Magic Mapping Parchment and then move around in the Wizardry window until you catch up to the same square, or you can do the reverse. You can highlight the Magic Mapping Parchment, and that way the Wizardry window will no longer be taking input from your keyboard, and you can move around using the arrow keys in the Magic Mapping Parchment window and get yourself in sync with where you are in the Wizardry window. And if you really get in a bind and you are unable to figure out how to use the arrow keys to sync up the windows, what you can do is you can use the equals key to bring up the specific square teleport window. So in this window, what you want to do is you want to input a specific square that you'd like to go to within the Wizardry maze. As I mentioned in my Wizardry Let's Play videos, the Proving Grounds are quite dangerous. So if you have a successful adventuring session, I recommend that you back up your Wizardry directory. That way, if you go back into the Proving Grounds, if you play again and half your party, all your party, some of your party gets wiped out, gets decapitated, you can always restore Wizardry to the previous, quote, save, unquote. Now, Wizardry does not have a save utility, a save functionality, so this is kind of a way to cheat and give it a save utility. Now, if you do this, if you back up your Wizardry files, I recommend that you also go into your binary directory of your Java Development Kit directory tree and get the mapdata.txt file and copy and paste it. Don't move it. It needs to be in that directory. Copy and paste it to wherever you back up your Wizardry files. Now, when you restore your Wizardry files, when you move that backup back to where you play Wizardry, back into that directory structure, so that you can restore Wizardry to a previous game save state. What you also want to do is you want to take that backed up mapdata.txt and move it back into the binary directory. And then that way the Magic Mapping Parchment will be restored to the point of your last successful adventuring session, your last save. Just a little tip there, and that way you won't get out of sync progress-wise with the Magic Mapping Parchment and Wizardry. All right, everybody. I hope this gets some use, and I hope you guys enjoy it. And thanks once again for watching.